Hi, my name's Johnny Lawrence, your performance coach, and welcome to Life Talk. Life Talk is a self-development show where every episode I'll be speaking to someone who's knowledgeable and passionate about a certain topic in hope to help you with your self-development. So let's get to it. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Talk. Today I'm here with Dr. Martin Kinsella. How you doing, Martin?
Hi, nice to see you, Johnny. Okay.
Yeah, nice to see you too. I mean, we only caught up a few days ago, but we've been frantically trying to get this so this works, and we're here on a Sunday evening. So thanks for your time. Firstly, more importantly, how is everything your end? How's Hannah?
She's great, thank you. Yeah, so we're expecting our first baby. She's 7 months pregnant now, so yeah, 7 months and a couple of weeks, I think. So not long to go. Exciting times. It's our first one, so
I bet it is exciting. I mean, Caroline, my wife, I know you know Caroline. She's been watching everything on the show that you're on, the Real Housewives of Cheshire. She's been enjoying that.
oh, that's good. Keeping up to
Yeah,
date. Yeah, it's
yeah.
like a not a documentary, but it kind of basically just journals everything to do with our pregnancy at the moment. I think the show, so it's quite good.
I'm sure that'll be lovely, sort of in times to come when you look back. I'm sure that'll be something that you treasure almost.
Definitely. I mean, yeah. I mean, obviously, with today, with things, with technology and when I look back at videos that my parents showed when they were younger, it's always very grainy footage. Sounds not very good. I mean, nowadays with technology, it's like you were there. So,
Yeah.
to have all this, so to have parts of it that have been on TV, or and even things like Instagram and these sorts of stuff, to have it documented so well, it's going to be really nice to look back on,
Yeah.
for hopefully, our kid or children, if we have more, which we hopefully will do, to be able to look back on and see what a big thing it was at the time.
That's right. And at risk of sounding like an old man, technology is amazing these days. What they're capable of doing is fantastic.
Yeah, imagine what it's going to be like when they're our age. I mean,
Well,
that's when it's frightening.
yeah,
Frightening.
that is frightening. I'd agree with that. Um, so, for those that don't know, Dr. Martin Kinsella is an aesthetics and anti-aging doctor and a duly qualified doctor and dentist, founder of Re-Enhance Clinic in Cheshire. And really, it was more your sort of stuff around functional medicine. I mean, you and I, when we get together, which is roughly monthly at this point, we go off on one, don't we, about health and fitness and various different ways that you can improve your health, fitness, brain health, all them sorts of things. And the other day we got on to sort of what I've come to realize is probably something called biohacking. And we spoke for a very long time. I mean, lots of people out there want to improve their self-development. Some people want to achieve really sort of incredible things in this world. And it all comes down to how you feel, how you think, and whether you've got the energy and motivation to move forward. So what are some of the things that you think optimally that people can do to really, really make it a game changer in their health and to perform on an optimal level?
Okay, well, I mean, it's interesting you said before about how we always go off on one. I mean, I think it's because it's such an interesting field and it's such a big field. There's so much to talk about. There's so many things I think that we do as on a day-to-day basis. We don't really appreciate just how much they can affect our health. And I think you're right today. We live very, very fast-paced lives. I mean, me and my wife live sometimes extremely fast-paced lives, and you wonder, how do you actually keep everything going? There's lots of we have lots of stresses in our life today. We also have very, we live almost very unnaturally. If you think, I always say to people, try and imagine the evolution of the human being, the human body. It was designed as a hunter gatherer. We were supposed to live with nature, and if you sort of compare our lifestyles today to what we were doing when we were hunter gatherers, and the diet we were eating, and when we were going to sleep, and how we were living, it's very, very unnatural, and that has had a massive effect on our body, both from a nutrition point and a lifestyle point of view. What I would say to people is that there's a big thing today about, we're very much more aware of mental health. We're very much more aware, especially we're talking a lot more now about mental health with men, but we're keeping this very generic today. But what we don't always appreciate is the association between our mental health and actually a biological health issue that we're dealing with underneath. And I think sometimes people say, "Well, I'm fit and healthy," but actually, health is a spectrum. It's not black and white. You're not healthy or unhealthy. You're somewhere in a spectrum, and there are many, many shades of grey. So I think it's firstly appreciating that actually mental health can actually, or how we feel and the energy levels that we have is very much dependent and very linked to biological mechanisms that go on within our body. And that's something that we can very much uh, improve on or optimize or modify if we need to. So first thing is diet. That is fundamentally one of the biggest things. So, I mean, I'm happy. You see, Johnny, I can go off on one now if you want. But I'm going to let you direct where you
Well,
want me to talk specifically to hone in on for this. This
well,
isn't because you can always revisit things later if we don't cover everything. But
one of the things I found really interesting was our conversation we had surrounding gut health
mm,
and the connection between the brain and the gut. I knew that to a degree, but the way you explained it was beautiful. So I don't know if you could go over that. That would be great.
yeah, sure. I mean, the gut, the immune system and the brain function almost like one interconnected organ. And this has been scientifically proved. The brain has a direct relationship, neural relationship with your gut. So they've actually, believe it or not, they've now been actually able to scientifically prove that this saying we have of gut feeling, well, actually, it actually does exist. But the gut's an extremely important part of the body. And if we look at, and it's central to having good all round health for two reasons. It has two functions. The first function is usually the only one that we generally tend to think of. The function being it needs to allow us to get nutrition from what we ingest into our body. So when we eat our food, so we eat our breakfast, whatever it might be, our proteins, carbs, we can get those macronutrients into our body along with the vitamins and minerals that we need to power our cells. But it has a second function, and the second function is just as important. When you put something into your body, it doesn't just then start to float around your body and your bloodstream. It goes into the gut, and the gut protects our body from things that shouldn't be coming across that wall. So it acts as a huge defense barrier. It's like our border control. Yeah. So things that we put into our body, the gut is there to act as a barrier to stop things that shouldn't come across that would cause harm into the body. And that's very, very important. Our gut has very many different parts of it. I won't go into detail, but there's a very specific part after the stomach area, the intestine, and that has you have small intestine and large intestine. And within the large intestine, it is absolutely covered or lined with bacteria. It's very important that we have bacteria there because that bacteria is very important to how the gut functions. And we call this the microbiome or the gut flora, different names for it, but it's our gut bacteria. When we have a good diet, we won't go into what a good diet is right now and what a bad diet is. But let's just say if I'm eating, lots of green vegetables and plant-based diet and lots of dietary fiber, I'll have a lot of good bacteria. If I'm eating Big Macs and Haribo sweets, I'll have a lot of bad bacteria. Okay. I want good bacteria. We don't want bad bacteria. So when we have bad gut health, whether it is some form of inflammation usually starts with an imbalance in this bacteria. We've got a lot of bad bacteria. Things start to come across the gut and come into our cells that shouldn't come through. Now, this brings us on to the immune system. If the immune system, as we know, is designed to protect us from disease and infection. So if I'm a protection force, I'm going to base myself in the areas that need me most. So it's no surprise that 80% of the immune system in your body is in your gut. It's lining the gut. At any one time, your immune system isn't spread out evenly through your body. 80% is lining the gut. It's policing that wall. It's policing the boundary of what's coming in. So when things start to come across the gut that shouldn't come across, the immune system gets triggered. And this is where we start to see a lot of autoimmune conditions. And when I say autoimmune is where the immune system starts to attack different parts of the body. It recognizes things it shouldn't get recognized, and it's because it gets confused. And when the immune system is constantly having to deal with things coming across that gut wall that it shouldn't have to do, it gets confused. And then therefore it might then start to confuse things that have been coming across with other parts of the body. So for example, if it starts to get confused with thyroid antigens, it'll attack the thyroid gland and we'll get autoimmune hypothyroidism. If it starts to get confused with certain parts of the joints, then we get rheumatoid arthritis. If it's the skin, we get eczema, psoriasis. If it's the nerve cells, it can be multiple sclerosis. And there are many, many different autoimmune conditions. I've just reeled off a few there. But most autoimmune conditions are definitely moderate. There is definitely a huge effect and can be moderated by nutrition, by improving gut health. So your diet is very, very, very important. So that's the immune system. Just to talk about, just to touch on, we talked about mood and mental health.
Yeah.
Well, 80% of your serotonin. So serotonin is a hormone or a neurotransmitter that your brain that we think of in the brain, and it's a feel good positive neurotransmitter. And lots of antidepressants work on boosting serotonin levels. Well, 80% of your serotonin isn't made in your brain, it's made in your gut. So we have this very, very strong relationship between gut health and brain health, mental health. So by getting our bodies in as good a gut health as possible, we achieve three things. Number one, we get optimal absorption of nutrition from our food. So we get the macronutrients we need, the vitamins and minerals that we need optimally. We also protect the body from the outside world very efficiently without stressing the immune system. So we're actually boosting and actually improving the function of our immune system and reducing the chances of or lessening any severity of pre-existing autoimmune conditions. And the third thing is we improve our mood. So diet is so important. And that is why if you have a bad diet, then you are going to be far more likely to not look as good as you could do. You're certainly not going to feel as good, and you're probably not going to be in as good a health.
See,
So
there's so much to unpack there. I mean, the idea that people that might be listening might aspire to be high achievers. They might be trying to educate themselves by going to seminars, doing courses, reading books, and they could be a step behind just because of fatigue, because of brain fog, and just generally not being optimal, being suboptimal in their approach to things. And it could all be because of their diet. Is that what you're saying in a roundabout way?
exactly, and I mean, just if you take anyone who's sort of gone on, sort of, for example, myself, I try and live within a healthy medium. So I'm never particularly very unhealthy. I'll have healthier times, and I'll have times when I'm not as caring about my diet. I might have drank a bit too much alcohol. I might have been
Yeah.
eating more processed foods. The difference in my ability to function is huge. Is absolutely huge. What a lot of people forget is if you're in a state of quite bad health, if you're quite overweight, if your gut health is in very poor condition, and you start to go on a health kick, and you start to exercise and detox and go on a healthy diet, when you start to metabolize a lot of your fat cells and things like that, they're all quite toxic to your body, and your body has to flush them out. So it's quite common for a lot of people when they go through these kind of health kicks, when they've really changed their lifestyle, it's common for them to not feel as good for a short period of time. And it's important that people know that, and because they think, well, I'm eating all this stuff and I feel awful. Actually, okay, yeah, it might be losing weight, but I feel terrible.
Yeah.
That will go. But that's just because the body's having to deal with lots of toxic waste in your body that should have been kicked out, years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's also the thing that, a lot of people in the new year, for example, they'll be aspiring to get into shape. They'll be going to the gym. And one of the things that always gets negated, and I say it all the time, is that you can't out train a bad diet. You have to have them key variables in your diet to help with that progress. I always tell people that in the gym, that's the catalyst for change. The actual change happens in rest and recovery, and that is all supported by good nutrition. And if your gut health, by the sound of it, is not in the right place, then you're not going to be able to utilize that protein, that carbohydrates, those fats. So that's vital. That's great stuff. That is the gut health, because not a
Yeah.
lot of people realize its value.
The other really, really good thing to know about the gut is that you can actually change your. So I talked before about the good and bad bacteria.
Yeah.
You can change your gut health within 20. You can change your, sorry, not gut health. You can change your microbiome, the gut flora, within 24 hours, very quickly.
Wow.
It's so responsive, and yes, it really does, and it's very easy to change. And actually, another thing that people don't realize is, and it's to do with the way the bacteria interact with our food that's being digested in the gut. But actually, the better your bacteria, the better your microbiome, then the more efficient you'll absorb nutrients. And what I mean by that is you will actually get more nutrients, more vitamins, and more macronutrients from your diet without actually consuming as less calories.
Wow.
So there'd be a
Okay.
much more effective. But actually, so just by changing your gut flora, and that's been proven. You will have much more likely to be able to lose weight because you'll be consuming less calories but getting the same amount of nutrition.
Again, it just comes to that optimization of the body, doesn't it? Like always trying to, and that's where we refer to biohacking as like these small 1% changes that collectively make a huge change within the body and the brain. Um, One other thing we spoke about, I mean, we just spoke about gut health, its relationship to the brain. And at the end, I just want to tie it up with some of your advice moving forward that people can do to help with that. But we also had another conversation, and that was about inflammation. And this was the one where I didn't quite realize just quite how in depth inflammation caused issues within the body. So I wondered if you'd speak about that.
Okay, well, basically, if you think of the any disease process, any disease in the body, there are a few simple things that have to happen for a process to start to go wrong. Number one is oxidative stress, which
How
is
would you define that?
it's basically when you get a lot of toxins in your body, lots of toxins in your body, waste products and things like that, that produce end products that are damaging and start to cause an oxidizing process to the body. A little bit like if I leave a bar of iron out outside, it will rust. A bit like rusting, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Iron oxidizes, cells rust. So oxidative stress. Second thing is inflammation. And the third thing is an immune reaction. So they go hand in hand. So the three of them. So if you take there is and there is no other when you injure a cell or a cell receives an insult via injury, trauma, a toxin, or whatever, any all these things that so everything that we do,
Yeah.
everything that we can possibly change, the cell can only ever respond in one of those three ways. There is no other way it can respond. So those three things, if you can eliminate those three things, then you eliminate a lot of disease processes. So inflammation is the core of it because inflammation is the start of the process, really. Now, inflammation is because if I said to someone, "Oh, you've got inflammation," immediately what you think of is in like a sore joint or a red, hot, swollen joint or problem in the skin or disease in the gut. What you're thinking of inflammation is like the consequences of
Yeah.
inflammation. Actually, what that is a consequence of the immune reaction get caused by the inflammation. So what actually is inflammation? Well, it's basically a cellular process that starts on cellular levels. Now, your entire body is just made up of cells. Your trillions of cells packed together. You've got different types of cells. We've got skin cells, heart muscle cells, bone cells, brain cells, gut cells, whatever, but they're all cells. And every single cell in your body has, if you look at it under a microscope, has certain key components. It's got a little nucleus in the center, right, where all the DNA is kept. And it's got lots of functions to help power the cell around the nucleus, and around it to bind it in is what we call a cell membrane. It's like a wall seals the cell. And that cell membrane has to function very, very importantly. And a lot of cellular inflammation, a lot of cellular inflammatory processes are caused because that cell membrane isn't functioning properly. That cell membrane has to allow nutrition into the cell. So if your cell needs magnesium, or it needs whatever, any type of nutrient, or it needs a hormone, it needs to be able to allow those to come in properly. But it also needs to allow waste products within the cell to get rid of them and exit the cell. So without having a good optimal cell membrane function, you don't have an optimally functioning cell, and that cell will likely become inflamed at some point. So that is if you've got a cell that's not getting its waste products out, it's becoming inflamed. It's now getting oxidative stress because of the waste products, causing damage to the cellular components, causing damage to the DNA. And on top of that, that then starts the immune response. So by improving cellular function, cell membrane function, we reduce inflammation and we reduce disease. And that's why I always bang on, and you know this from me. If someone says to me, what's the most important supplement in the world for human beings to be taking today? It's an omega-3 supplement.
So before we go on to the supplements, how would this manifest? So physically, how would somebody feel? What would actually happen to them if they were having some severe inflammation within the body?
Well, it depends where it is. So obviously, if it was in the skin, then you'd have skin problems. You could have atopic dermatitis, right? Rosacea, whatever. Some sort of autoimmune condition in the skin, like psoriasis or eczema. If it's in the gut, you could have irritable bowel problems. You might have inflammatory bowel. Might start things like Crohn's. If it's within the cardiovascular system, then you get cardiovascular disease. So you might end up with, blood pressure, raised blood pressure. You might get high cholesterol levels. You might get narrowing of your arteries. If it's in your brain, you might have, fatigue, brain fog, low mood, lack of energy, loss of sex drive. All these things. If it's in the muscles or the bones or the ligaments, you might then start getting pains in your joints and legs and things. So there's lots of things. So a lot of people get sort of symptoms like fatigue, bloating, aches and pains, that sort of stuff. And it's usually because they've got a background of inflammation. Inflammation is the backdrop. Cellular inflammation is the backdrop to pretty much every disease known to man that
Wow,
we suffer from. So
that's a remarkable statement. That really is. That,
more, carry on. Sorry.
No, that what you just said there about it's the backdrop to all diseases, and just our basic level, you can feel fatigue, you can have brain fog, it can affect you on day-to-day life, the inflammation. But on an actual extreme level, it does seem to be able to attack any part of the body because it's all the body's formed up by cells. So it's amazing to me. The reason why I wanted you to speak about that is because I didn't realize to what level that was important, and I'm not sure everyone else does either. So I think it's really good that you're speaking about this. Moving forward, we also spoke about the relationship between you were just about to talk about omega-3s, and we spoke a bit about vitamin D. So sort of to finish up, what is the relationship between vitamin D, omega-3, inflammation, gut health, and all these things?
Well, I think the big problem today is that we living in today's society, we have to take we must take multivitamins. we don't get enough nutrients and vitamins and minerals from our diet, and that's because there's two problems. Number one, our food is not as nutritious as it used to be. A lot of it is artificially sort of, can be artificially tampered with, or the way we farm things, and soil is not as good as it used to be. It's not as rich and as fertile as it used to be. So the food that we consume is not as nutritious, and also because of technology mainly and our lifestyles, it comes back down to lifestyle. For example, me and you are having this chat now via Wi-Fi. We drive cars. We don't, we're not having to go and chase our food in the evening. We're not running from predators. We are adapted now to running on much lower calories. So, a woman now, a female, can run on maybe 1,500 calories a day. A man who's not particularly, exercising very regularly would be more around. These are approximates. It's
Yeah.
very different for different people, different body weights, different exercise regimes. But maybe 1,500 for a woman, 2,000 calories for a man. To get all the nutrients and vitamins we need from our food, we'd have to be consuming nearly 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day, and we would put weight on with that. So we are not getting nutrition. So, and then if you said to me, well, what's the key ones? Well, it is omega-3. Omega-3 is simply the most important one because of, number one, those cell membranes I talked about are made up of what we call essential fatty acids. Essential means they are the fatty acids that we can only get from our diet. Our body can't make them. You'll have heard of omega-3 supplements. You'll have heard of omega-6. There is an omega-9 as well. You've heard of things like cod liver oil supplements. There's lots of multivitamins out there that say, rich in the omegas 3, 6, and 9. What it is they're fatty acids that we get in our diet. Today, we consume huge amounts of omega-6 and very very little of omega-3, and it's because we get omega-6 from vegetable oils, and vegetable oils is used in pretty much most of our food that we consume today. So we get absolutely inundated with omega-6, but we don't get very much omega-3. Omega-3 comes from generally oily fish like salmon, mackerel. It is in some fruits like avocados and nuts and things like that. But as I said, soil's not as good, food isn't as nutritious. A lot of salmon is farmed, it's not wild. Wild salmon's got other problems like heavy metals in them now. So, but because we're getting so much omega-6, they reckon we'd have to be consuming nearly 2 to 3 kilos of oily fish a week. I like a bit of salmon now and again, but I don't think I'd fancy eating 2 to 3 kilos a week of it.
No.
The thought of it knocks me sick a little bit. I'll
Yeah.
be honest, you make me a bit more just thinking about it. But anyway, because of this imbalance that we have now in this, so because we get so little omega-3 and we get so much omega-6, that causes a problem with our cell membranes, because those essential fatty acids make up some of the key components of the cellular membrane. What happens is when we don't have enough omega-3 and we've got too much 6, like most people have, and we're not a little out of balance, we're massively out of balance, the cell becomes quite rigid. It doesn't allow that nutrition to get into the cell, it doesn't allow the waste to get out, and it starts that inflammation. And that's why number one supplement that we must all take, that everyone should be taking, is a good omega-3 supplement.
Define that good omega-3, because I mean we spoke about that before as well, didn't we? And how not all omega-3s or omega supplements are equal, and that some don't. I think you mentioned something about the oxidation process.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of omega-3 supplements, when you ingest them, they're oxidized or they basically rendered useless within anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. And there's some pretty shameful studies. When I say shameful, I mean studies that have actually been quite shameful for a lot of omega-3 supplements. A lot of them, unfortunately, just don't work. It's because of the way they're manufactured. When omega-3s are found in nature, in marine algae, that's where the fish get theirs from, because they eat the algae. Fish aren't born with a load of omega-3. It's because of what they eat. It's their diet. So we get it from marine algae, but omega-3 molecules are not a stable molecule. They're always bound to polyphenols. Polyphenols are a different type of molecule, but omega-3s float around with their with their buddy, and it's a polyphenol. But the polyphenol in a marine algae is not particularly user-friendly product. It's got a horrible color. It's got a gloopy texture, and a lot of companies have always removed the polyphenols away from the omega-3 to make a better color, better taste, better texture, better tasting products. They usually then add things like dealpha-tocopherol, also known as vitamin E, to stabilize the products. The problem is the minute you take it, within 12 hours, it's oxidized. It doesn't get to those cell membranes, it doesn't get to where it needs to go. So we need at least 24 hours stability with an omega-3 product. So you really, when you're looking for an omega-3, you always look for one which has got a polyphenol reconstituted. The ones I always use, the ones I sell with the ones I recommend to my patients, they're ones, they've usually got a reconstituted polyphenol, usually from olive oil, because it's a much friendlier product, much nicer color, nicer texture, nicer taste. They put that back, works the same beautifully. And studies on some of these products show that they're stable for 36 hours. And also, we test the patients. So the product I use has an independent test that people take at the start and they take it 4 months later. So when you're taking these supplements, you know exactly what they're doing. How many supplements? I mean, how many? I bet you there's been times of your life, Johnny, where you've gone to make your coffee and you've probably, like me, you've probably got about 20 different bottles of supplements by your coffee. You're not really sure sometimes why you're taking them or if they're actually working. So it's important to take supplements that you know are working.
I get asked all the time by clients, what supplements should I take? And I say, well, what are you deficient in? It's important to know that, I think, because in some cases it can be just as detrimental to your health to be, oversubscribing yourself vitamins or minerals or whatever than it can be to be to not have enough.
Well, we're pretty much, by and large, 97% of the population are omega-3 deficient.
Yeah.
And they probably need to have at least double, if not triple, the amount of omega-3s that they're actually consuming in a diet. They're really out of balance.
Yeah.
Vitamin D, again, vitamin D is another one. I'll just tell you about vitamin D
Yep.
very quickly. If you're fair-skinned, you get it from the sun. You do get it from some foods, but not very much. It usually comes from your skin makes it in response to sunlight. If you're fair-skinned, you do that pretty well. The problem is because you burn,
Yeah.
put sunscreen on, so you don't absorb any. And if you're a bit darker skinned, you don't absorb. You don't need the sunblock, but you don't absorb it very well. So globally, I'm not talking about UK sort of stud figures here. I'm talking about global population. We are deficient in vitamin D. Globally, we are deficient in omega-3.
And what effect does the vitamin D have on the body? The deficiency?
Well, it is absolutely vital for hormone function, for calcium moderating and maintaining things like calcium levels in the body. These things have a huge effect on hormone function, cell metabolism, energy usage, you name it. It's not a vitamin, it's a hormone in the body, and you need it for pretty much most systems within the body.
I mean, just to close this down, then, just to summarize, gut health, inflammation, they're all being affected by the fact that people are deficient in omegas and vitamin D. And if you were to implement a good omega-3, omega-6, omega-9 supplement and a good vitamin D supplement, that would make a drastic improvement within your health.
Definitely, 100%. I think they're the two things: omega-3, vitamin D, and usually a good gut healh supplement. So I like prebiotics. A lot of people use probiotics. I'll talk to you about that another day. Differences between pre's and pros. We could have a session just on the best gut supplements. I can have a session with you. We're just talking a little bit about the inflammation, the general thing today, but definitely a good gut health supplement, something that's going to help boost that good bacteria and kick the bad bacteria out.
Okay, so I know that you're a busy chap and you've got things to do, so I'll just close this down then. I'm sure that you mentioned a supplement that you recommend. I don't know if you want to mention that now, or if people can get hold of you via your social media. If you want to mention your social media,
well, if they follow me on Dr. Martin Kinsella on Instagram, I'm on Facebook as well. I'm doing I'm doing one at 5 o'clock now. I'm doing a Facebook Live on. It's called Revolution Health. It's a new Facebook page that we've started up to educate people about supplements. So Revolution Health, and I've got it on my story on my Instagram. Me and my wife are going to be doing one now at 5 p.m. So if anyone's interested, can have a look at that. If they want to, if they're interested in supplements, they can. There's some links attached to that, or if they want to, they can message me on Instagram. We're happy to talk to them about it. Yeah, I mean, I always put a lot of people on, as I said, a combination. The product I use is an omega-3 with a polyphenol and vitamin D in one, and it's an oil that you drink. But I've got, I can talk to people in more detail about that if they want to.
That's great. Martin, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Good to
I-
speak to you. We'll
yeah,
do it again soon.
of course, and I look forward to probably seeing you next month. But you
Yeah,
take care.
you can pick a specific topic, and you can pick my brains anytime, Johnny. All right.
All right, mate. That's great. Thank you. Send my love to Hannah, and I'll catch you later.
I will do. Take care. Good
Take care,
night.
bud.
Have a
Cheers.
good day. Bye bye.
Bye.